Slovakia Chronicles, a podcast of information, news and much more of our beloved Slovakia. By Andrea Paolo Mazzucchetti. It's me! Let's start. Hello everyone, welcome to the 29th episode of the Slovakia Chronicles Podcast. More than 3.5 million people had received a certificate with a negative result over the past weekend when they took part in the nationwide testing. But are you ready? Yes, here we go again. In fact, this weekend will take place the second round of the nationwide testing on the districts where more than 0.7% of people tested positive in the first round. So, if you are one of the lucky ones, long lines of people will wait for you in several spots in your city. This time I will suggest to go on Sunday due to the fact that in the previous session everyone basically went on Saturday, me included. The testing in this district will look similar to the first round, but the testing times have been shortened. Testing site will be open between 8 and 20, both Saturday and Sunday. The testing will not take place in 25 districts, mostly in the south of Slovakia, except for Dunajská Streda and the cities of Bratislava and Košice. People who plan on traveling to these districts will also need a new certificate to be able to move around these districts the weekend after the second round of testing. Mobile testing sites will also be open in the district capitals of green districts that border with the red ones. People who were not tested in the first round are not to attend the second round of testing. They are required to remain at home isolation for 10 days. People who come from the green district, where the second round of testing will not take place, but are planning to travel to the district where the second round will take place during the weekend that follows, should attend the testing. Without a new test from November 7 and November 8, they will be not permitted to move around the red districts. People from green districts who do not plan to travel the red district are not advised to get tested in the second round. The curfew will last until Saturday, 14 November. Its exceptions are: you can go out between the hours of 1 and 5 o'clock, people with negative PCR or antigen test from the nationwide testing. In the red district, where the second round will take place, the latest certificate from the second round of PCR test confirming a negative result not older than 7 and 8 November. In the green district, where the second round will not take place, the certificate from the first round will still be required until the end of the curfew on November 14. Those who live in the red district and do not attend the second round of testing will be allowed to visit a doctor or to go to the closest shop selling foodstuff or a pharmacy. People who cannot attend the testing due to medical reasons, those who have been tested positive for the COVID-19 in the past 3 months, and children younger than 10 years of age are exempt from the stricter curfew. The police have warned people via Facebook that if you lose their certificate from the testing, the exemptions will not apply to them. Those who cannot prove they have tested negative are required to observe the restriction just like people who have not been tested, under the threat of a fine up to €1,650. By the way, if you are complaining for these strict rules, don't worry that we are not alone here. In fact, many lockdowns and tighter measures have been applied all around Europe. Slovakia instead created a mix from the measures used in other countries, deciding to use a combination of a curfew-based lockdown and mass testing to counter the pandemic. Anyhow, the government stressed the condition that people should still behave very responsibly. Whether Slovakia will avoid a lockdown or not is on our hand. In fact, the Health Ministry is calling on people to be careful. A negative antigen test result does not mean that test person is definitely not infected with the coronavirus and they cannot infect others. The government has been aware that using rapid tests for mass testing was going to produce thousands of falsely negative persons running free around the country. Slovak leading expert on the pandemic recommend retesting positive people with more accurate RT-PCR tests. The effect on the nationwide testing and of these strict measures seems not improving the number of new hospitalizations. In fact, the hospitals in the north of Slovakia are overwhelmed, the Linat worse off. There are some hospitals, like the one in Bonice and Bardeo, that via Facebook are calling for healthcare professionals to come and help them out, literally asking anyone with a healthcare training to contact them. Even the border control will be carried out from 15th of November. The arrangement for those arriving in Slovakia through the land border crossing change. In fact, a 10 days quarantine period is foreseen for those who do not have a certificate attesting the negative result of a PCR test. The certificate must not be older than 72 hours and must be shown at the border control. The measures now also apply to travelers from non-European countries. Those who do not have the required certificate can register on the corona.gov.sk website and remain in home isolation for 5 days. Then you can take the test for free. For those who come from a European Union state included in the red list, it will be sufficient to observe the 10 days quarantine period without the subsequent obligation to test. Those arriving from a non-European country on the red list will have to take the test and wait for the result. The Antigen Test will only be available at some border crossing point and will be carried out for a fee at the market price by private companies. However, border crossing points are reserved for those who already have the required certificate. The measure will make it possible to avoid the formation of long lines of vehicles at the border, given that the waiting time to perform the test and receive the result are at least 30 minutes. And after all this bad news, finally a good one. In fact, for the joy of every foreigner, the Foreign Police Office will reopen on Monday, 9 November. After the introduction of the new anti-COVID restrictive measures and the consequent limitation of freedom of movement, all the appointments scheduled from 26 of October to 30 October 2020 were suspended to carry out tasks related to the pandemic emergency. The requests for which will be possible to make an appointment are the following: permanent resident permit, renewal of the permanent resident permit, registration of the residence of a European citizen, family member of a European citizen, permanent resident permit of a European citizen or family member of European citizen, permanent resident for 5 years, permanent resident for an unlimited period of time, long-term residence application. Users must have a printout of the online appointment booking form with them in order to speed up the process. They will also be able to access the office only by observing strict hygienic measures. For the other type of questions, it will not be necessary to book an appointment. So, still not a good period for all of us, but don't worry, we are saving the winter holidays here. Hopefully. Thank you for being part of the Slovakia Chronicles family and stay safe.